Coming up on First at 4, the World Chicken Festival delayed today due to the weather. We'll go live to London for an update. Plus, we're keeping an eye on water levels due to flooding concerns, how folks in Jenkins have a new way to do that.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, what is now Tropical Depression Helene is still causing problems across the South. Here in Kentucky, the storm knocked down some trees and power lines, leaving nearly 225,000 customers in the dark. But is the worst now over? I know many of you are seeing sunshine right now. Meteorologist Eric Dean has the latest on this first alert weather day. Eric.
All right, good afternoon. Here's the latest on what is now Tropical Depression Helene. You can see here on the map the winds are 35 miles per hour. It's moving to the north-northwest at 28. It's about 100 miles south and southeast of Louisville. Now the next advisory will come up in the next hour. This is live pinpoint Doppler radar. Right now we're still seeing a little bit of rain across portions of I-64 and then south of Pikeville through Norton and then across portions of Lee County in Virginia. That's actually where we have that flash flood watch in effect. And as Steve mentioned, we are seeing a little bit of a break in the clouds, seeing a few peaks of sun out there, but temperatures are still in the 70s across the majority of the area. Look at Pikeville and Grundy. How about low to mid 80s? 80 in Pikeville, 83 in Grundy. And we still have a flood watch in effect for portions of the viewing area until 8 o'clock tonight. That's for Lawrence County as well as Wayne County in West Virginia, Dickinson and Buchanan County. Next 12 hours keeps temperatures in the upper 60s and low 70s. Now the question is, how does this weekend look? I'll have that answer in the first alert forecast in a few minutes. Steve.
All right, Eric, thank you. And don't forget, you can stay up to date as the remnants of Helene wash across the area by downloading the WYMT News app. Just scan this QR code for a link to download. You can also sign up for breaking news alerts. The 2024 World Chicken Festival was delayed today due to the weather. Committee members met to make a decision on whether or not to even begin festivities tonight, but that decision has now been made. WYMT's Chandler Wilcox joins us live from downtown London with an update and some good news. Chandler.
Thank you, Steve. And it is, in fact, good news. Special committee members decided to begin things tonight at 5 p.m. Now, some events from earlier today were canceled as rain and wind came in. London Police Public Affairs Officer Hobie Darty says they determined the weather could impact vendors.
You know, we had a meeting early this morning to kind of assess what the weather was going to be doing, and it looked like we were going to have some pretty severe winds and rain coming in that was going to be troublesome for a lot of these smaller pop-up tents that some of our vendors have. We made the decision.
I was told part of that decision came down to two factors, one being first responder availability and the other, of course, whether they ultimately decided to begin things at 5 p.m. And the acts tonight are scheduled on time. In London, Chandler Wilcox, WYMT Mountain News.
All right, definitely some good news for folks wanting to go to the Chicken Festival and enjoy that a little bit. Thank you very much. Now, the only time the World Chicken Festival has been canceled was during the COVID-19 pandemic. Organizers say many vendors just rely too much on the festival to cancel. Governor Andy Beshear addressed Kentuckians about the threat of severe weather earlier today. The governor said state employees were being sent home at 10:30 this morning. At that time, only about 22,000 Kentucky customers were without power. As I mentioned earlier, that number has grown throughout the day. At last check, it was up to about 225,000 customers, and most of those are in central and eastern Kentucky. There were no reports of flash flooding or major roadway closings at the time of the governor's briefing, but we have had reports throughout the day across eastern Kentucky of trees down across roadways, and those are being cleaned up as they happen. Governor Beshear had this message for anyone who has to get out today.
If you do choose to do that, be careful. No texting, no phone calls. If you're out in the middle of this, we need your 100% attention while you're driving for your safety and for the safety of those around you.
Now, Governor Beshear said at the time he did not plan to issue a state of emergency, but assets are in place across the Commonwealth just in case things worsen, and we have no indication that that's changed at all. The governor did later provide an update on social media saying a local state of emergency was declared in a few counties, including Breathitt, Lee, and Letcher counties. I assume that's probably mainly due to so many power outages. The main impacts from the storm in Kentucky, according to the governor, have been downed trees, blocked roads, and significant power outages. We also want to remind you of a few safe driving tips if you have to get out. AAA is reminding drivers just to take it slow on days like this, allow for some extra time, and maybe leave a little early. They say slowing down can be critical to reducing a car's chance of hydroplaning. They are also reminding drivers to increase the distance of the car in front of you. Start slowing down early before you stop for intersections and turns to prevent any slides or skids. And if you feel like your car is starting to skid, they say it's important not to panic. Continue to look and steer in the direction you want the car to go and avoid slamming on the brakes. As the remnants of Hurricane Helene continue to impact parts of the region, officials are monitoring potential flood risks. WYMT's RJ Johnson shares how one city has implemented a new system to help.
Here in Jenkins, there are several stream gauges throughout the city. Mayor Todd Debris says they are able to monitor levels of Elkhorn Creek and Lake. He says after the July 2022 flood, they wanted to give folks a chance to monitor the levels at any time, especially after experiencing heavy rain in the area.
If it hits a certain level and we think, well, maybe it's going to overrun the bridge, it's lower end of town or whatever, we can let the folks know, number one, bottom, wherever it may be, hey, the water's getting up. If you need to get out, we need to be working on that right now. You know, other than the time of the flood, we've not had to deal with that. But if it does happen again, that gives us a lot more lead time on being able to do that.
Dupree says folks can customize the alerts, saying it allows them to be more weather aware. In Jenkins, RJ Johnson, WYMT Mountain News.
Coming up tonight at 6, hear how officials plan on addressing those concerns of high water levels when they do come up. High winds and rain have created lots of trouble for vendors at the Casey County Apple Festival. The storms were just too much for some vendors. Numerous tents blew away. Several vendors just decided to pack up today. The festival is taking place in downtown Liberty. Vendors told us their sales at the festival can translate to income for months.
I'm really hoping though that we can make some money because during the winter we don't work, we don't have work, and if we don't have the money to support ourselves during the winter, I don't know, we're gonna starve.
And it was certainly a big festival weekend across Kentucky. You just feel bad for everybody that's had to deal with this weather. Now, as of right now, that festival in Casey County is still scheduled to run through the weekend. Coming up on First at 4, Tropical Depression Helene continues to wreak havoc across the South. Many states hit much harder than Kentucky. We'll have the latest from Florida.
And as Helene pushed through, the rain chances picked up. The question is, how long will the rain chances last? I'll have the details in a few minutes.